There is a place on Earth sculpted by the wind, where strange creatures twist and scuttle over shifting sands. A place where a burning desert touches an icy sea. Where life persists and flourishes despite the trials of survival. Here, African desert and ocean are married by the wind, a wind that brings life to both. The place is an Eden called Namib. Extending more than 1,000 miles along the southwest coast of Africa, the Namib Desert is one of the driest in the world. There seems no trace of water here. It may not rain for years at a time. It might appear that nothing could live on these parched sands. But there is life here. Unique creatures adapted to thrive in seemingly impossible conditions. Many owe their living to the wind. A wind that links this driest of deserts to the icy waters that wash its shores. The seas off the Namib coast teem with tiny plants and animals, food for fish, and the fish in turn are food for larger creatures. The ocean here too owes its fertility to the wind. As the wind blows surface waters northward, cold water from the deep surges up to take its place. With it comes food from the seabed, the lifeblood of the ocean. The streaming sea along the shore forms the Benguela Current. Because it's so cold, it tempers the climate of the Namib. And because it's so prolific, it attracts birds. They flock here by the million. Three-quarters of southern Africa's flamingos feed along these shores. Flamingos filter their food from the salty water, sifting tiny plants and crustaceans from the incoming tide. The pelicans, cormorants, and other seabirds here eat fish. Cape cormorants are the most numerous birds on the coast. At the start of the breeding season in October, they gather up scraps of debris to fashion simple nests. 100,000 nest here. Each pair will lay 3 to 5 eggs. They may rear only a single young, but that's still an incredible abundance in such a desolate place. And cormorants are only one of the species that breed here. All the seabirds time their breeding to take advantage of the seasonal glut of fish. Early in the southern summer, the winds blow their strongest and the upwelling of the Benguela Current is most vigorous. Cormorants and gannets nest on offshore islands. They're safer from predators than they would be on the mainland. But the islands have their drawbacks. The seas around may be close to freezing, but on land, the African sun can be burning hot. Seabirds aren't designed to live in a desert. The white feathers of Cape gannets reflect heat, so they turn their backs to the sun to keep cool. The cormorant's black plumage absorbs heat. They cool down by panting, all the while creating the means for another creature's survival. Remarkably, bird droppings provide a nesting site for jackass penguins. Thick deposits of guano, built up over the years, are burrowed into for shelter and shade from the blistering sun. Birds of the frozen southern seas, penguins endure the Namib's heat because of its bounty of fish. But when temperatures become unbearable, a parent will briefly abandon its young to cool down in the ocean. Once in the icy waters, their preferred and more comfortable home, the penguins seem to revel in the sea's refreshing embrace. Swimming does more than keep the penguins cool. It washes the guano from their feathers. Keeping their plumage clean and groomed is vital. Their feathers insulate them from the heat of the shore as well as the cold of the sea. Penguins aren't the only polar creatures that breed along this burning shore. The fertile waters of the Benguela Current attract another animal from colder climes. Fur seals, more than 500,000 breed along the edge of the Namib, one for every 7 feet of coastline. The large bulls are the first to come ashore at the start of breeding season in November. They establish small territories along the edge of the surf. The best territories lie close to the water, where keeping cool is easier. It's prime real estate, aggressively protected from any other male hunting for a better location. Young males are no match for the heavier, mature bulls. They're forced to the edge of the colony. For older males, hanging on to territory is a constant struggle. Intruding neighbors must be kept at bay and new arrivals repelled. For the bulls, controlling a good corner of the beach is the key to fathering the next generation. When the females come ashore, they don't pick a mate. They select the coolest places. Within hours of arriving on land, they give birth to pups that were sired here a year ago. The bulls will play no part in rearing the young. They will almost certainly have been fathered by some other male. The births are synchronized, hundreds of thousands in just a few weeks. As soon as it's born, pup and mother exchange calls. They must recognize one another's voice if they're to keep in contact in the crowd. Smell is vital too. Mothers nurse only their own young. For pups, the first few days of life are critical. Losing touch with their mother would be fatal. Because of their dark coloring, pups are prone to overheating. They rely on the shade cast by their mother's body to keep cool. About 6 days after giving birth, the females are ready to mate. This is what the bulls have been waiting for. The payoff for their struggle to control a good stretch of beach. The breeding season lasts less than 6 weeks. But in that time, a male can mate with as many as 70 females. By the end of the season, their fighting and mating will leave the bulls exhausted. Bull-fur seals can weigh 8 times as much as their partners, and females have sometimes been smothered when bulls fall asleep in the act. Like the seabirds, the fur seals breed when the winds are strongest and the fish most abundant. And just as the wind rules the creatures of the sea, so it molds the life of the burning shore. The wind that drives the icy Benguela shapes the dunes of the Namib. The sands are always on the move, leaving no foothold in this shifting world for animal or plant. No shelter from the noonday heat or nighttime chill. For anything that lives here, controlling its temperature is a constant problem. Desert days dawn cold, so the lizard presses its body against the sand to warm up. But all too soon, the sand heats up to as much as 150 degrees. The problem now is keeping cool. The lizard keeps its body off the sand, then lifts each foot in turn to save it from being burned. A desert cricket's long legs keep it above the sand. A fraction of an inch up can be 30 degrees cooler. The long-legged beetle keeps even cooler by running, creating its own wind. The few scattered bushes and clumps of grass serve as miniature oases, islands of plenty in a trackless sea of sand. For the long-legged dune ant, that's another problem. There are few landmarks in the desert, so navigation is difficult. Most ants lay scent trails, but trails would be blown away out here. Dune ants navigate by the angle of the sun. The ants build their nests under the grass. It gives shade and shelter from the wind and food. The grass is infested with scale insects. The ants milk them for their sweet secretions of honeydew. As the sun climbs higher, the sand grows unbearably hot. Cricket and beetle must seek out shelter. Vegetation is rare in the desert, so the ants defend their grass against intruders. The cricket clambers upwards, away from the hot sand. It's cooler up in the breeze. And it's cooler just a few inches down. By burying itself in the sand, the beetle escapes the ants as well. In the Namib, survival is measured by unique and ingenious adaptation. The The Namib's dunes move constantly. But this shifting of the sands is only a final chapter of a journey that begins hundreds of miles to the east in another, more gentle Eden. In the green center of southern Africa, the Drakensberg Mountains rise to more than 10,000 feet, intercepting moisture-bearing winds from the Indian Ocean, forcing them upwards to condense as cloud and rain. Birthplace of the Namib's dry dunes. From a swamp high in the mountains, the Orange River carves a turbulent passage 1,300 miles west to the Atlantic. When the river rises in flood, it strips the land bare, pulverizing granite to sand, desert sand. Releases its burden into the Atlantic. From here, the sand is swept north, then blown inland to build the dunes of the Namib. As the daily wind gathers strength, desert lizards become most active. For the wind shifts more than sand. It brings fragments of vegetation, seeds, and dead insects, which accumulate on the leeward side of the dunes. These gifts from the wind help ensure the lizard's survival. Some creatures of the Namib have learned to live almost entirely on their catch of wind-blown debris. The wind will die only at sunset, when the desert starts to cool.
שידורי אחר הצהריים בתל-עד, ב-3 שיר לירושלים, קונצרט לרגל שנת ה-3,000 לירושלים, ב-4 של מי ההיסטוריה הזאת, משדר מיוחד לבני הנוער, ב-5 עם רפי רשת, ב-5:30 שידורי הטלוויזיה החינוכית, ב-6 שירים ישראליים, וב-6:30 חורבן או בניין, קובי מידן ואורחים במשדר מיוחד ב9 באב. צפייה נעימה.
The night brings a new world. Animals that would shrivel in the heat of the day emerge to hunt or be hunted. Creatures like scorpion, sun spider, and gecko, who have spent the day hidden in cool burrows beneath the sand, now begin their nightly business of survival. For its size, the fearsome sun spider boasts the largest jaws in the animal kingdom. But the Namib shelters an even more extraordinary predator. One who hunts from beneath the surface. The golden mole. A tiny, blind hunter with hidden ears, sensitive to vibrations from prey such as termites. By plunging its head in the sand, a mole can detect termite colonies many yards away. Though only the size of a man's thumb, a golden mole can cover 3 miles a night in search of food. Termites are a favorite prey, but the golden mole also hunts beetles and even small lizards. In the cold of the desert night, the mole must keep eating to stay warm. The golden mole has a keen sense of smell, but even at close range, sensing movement is its main way of finding its quarry. Before dawn, the mole will bury itself deep underground. As the cold sand drains the heat from its body, it will enter a state akin to hibernation until the next night. In the chill light of dawn, a thick fog drifts in from the sea. These coastal fogs form when warm, moist air from the Atlantic blows across the cold Benguela Current. The fogs can penetrate up to 60 miles inland, providing the lifeblood of the desert. Moisture condenses on the desert grass, even on the bodies of the animals. For many creatures, this is the only chance of a regular drink. This clever beetle has adapted its behavior to capture moisture. On cold, misty mornings, it climbs laboriously to the very crest of the dune. There, it turns to face the wind and raises its body to intercept the incoming fog. Moisture condenses on its back and trickles down to its mouth. The life-giving mists are short-lived. As the rising sun warms the desert, the fog evaporates, burning back to the coast. The Namib's cold-blooded creatures need the heat of the morning sun to warm their bodies. A chameleon basks broadside to the sunrise. Its body darkens to absorb more heat. When one side is done, it turns to heat the other. Other cold-blooded animals become active as the day warms up. For the sidewinder, the heat of the sun is a mixed blessing. As the sand warms, it dries and becomes looser, making it harder for the snake to move. The sidewinder has solved the problem by adopting this unique style of movement. By raising its body off the surface, it also reduces contact with the hot sand. As snakes go, sidewinders are small, less than a foot long. They hunt by ambushing their prey. Sooner or later, something edible will visit this tiny oasis, and the snake will be waiting. This time, the lizard was lucky. With the last traces of moisture from the morning fog now vanished, the desert becomes a shimmering cauldron of heat. For the desert's larger creatures, like ostrich and gemsbok, the moisture-bearing fogs have little value. If they are to survive, they must find water. The seasonal rivers that flow west from the interior lose themselves in the sand long before reaching the ocean. But water is here if you know where to find it. Sand grouse are desert birds, but because they live on dry seeds, they have to drink every day. Morning and evening, they fly as much as 40 miles in search of water. The Namib isn't all sand. Beneath the dry riverbeds lie underground reserves of water, and in a few places it reaches the surface. These occasional oases allow plants and animals to flourish in the midst of the most arid of deserts. Sooner or later, anything that can fly or walk comes to drink. The sand grouse are here to do more than quench their own thirst. They will quickly give way to larger creatures. But before they leave, the males do something extraordinary. They soak up water in special sponge-like breast feathers. The sand grouse fly deeper into the desert, bearing their cargo of water. The Namib's warthogs must drink every day, so they stay close to the water holes. But gemsbok are better suited to life in the desert. They can go without water for days, gleaning enough moisture from their diet. Gemsbok can tolerate temperatures that would kill other animals. Even if their bodies overheat, a network of blood vessels in their nose cools the blood before it reaches the brain. Many miles away, the sand grouse near the end of their journey. Like their parents, sand grouse chicks must drink every day. But they can't fly to the waterhole, and it's too far to walk. So their father brings water to them. No other bird can carry water like this. The absorbent breast feathers are unique. Vultures are the last to arrive at the waterhole in the morning. They depend on thermals to soar and must wait until the desert warms before flying any distance. But once it's hot enough, they gather from miles around. Over countless years of evolution, each creature of this desert has adapted in its own way to the harsh demands of survival, and as a result, endured. True desert animals are well equipped to deal with the heat of the day. But what about the seals of the burning shore? Fur and blubber may be perfect insulation for the freezing waters of the Benguela, but they're a poor defense against the heat of the African sun. The seals hold their flippers up in the breeze to maximize loss of heat, and they lie as close as they can to the surf, within reach of the cooling spray. For those that can't win a place in the splash zone, the alternative is to rest high up on the beach, as high as possible, for the benefit of any cold wind from the sea. But this is very much second best. Sooner or later, the heat becomes intolerable, and they must return to the water. Young pups are especially prone to overheating. Their mothers must stay with them for the first week, so when they go for a swim, they take their pups with them and park them in the cooling spray. The journey may look uncomfortable, but it's better than being left alone in the sun. Pups don't start swimming until they're 2 months old. So their mothers must leave them while feeding at sea. They're left to sweat it out on the beach, alone and vulnerable. Seals are in their element. On land, they're awkward and ungainly. And this is Africa, a continent of predators. The desert that backs the shore gives some protection, But even the Namib has its hunters, creatures on the lookout for the weak and defenseless. A jackal. These pups' mothers are fishing at sea. The youngsters must fend for themselves. Seals have been breeding here for thousands of years. In the distant past, this was an island. But over the centuries, sand swept north by the Benguela Current joined it to the mainland. So now the jackals have the run of the colony. The jackal gives the pup an exploratory nip to see how strong it is. A solitary jackal prefers the weak or sick. A more serious threat arrives. A brown hyena. Seals can see well underwater, but on land they're very short-sighted. If something keeps still, they will approach it. Perhaps there's safety in numbers, and jackals are more scavengers than killers. A jackal's best chance for a taste of seal meat is to shadow a prowling hyena. For most of the year, hyenas scavenge a meager living in the desert. But for just a few weeks, when the seals are breeding, the supply of food seems almost unlimited. The hyena searches for the ideal victim. It's looking for a sleeping or unattended pup. A mother seal could drive the hyena off. A pup on his own stands no chance. For the pup, death comes quickly. With so many pups to choose from, the hyena will eat only the choicest parts of each kill, leaving the jackals to squabble over remnants. Though hyenas kill hundreds of pups each year, hundreds of thousands survive. It is part of the grand equation that tests and sustains life here. Here on the coast of Africa, sea, wind, sand, and sun are joined as nowhere else on Earth. It is a marriage of beauty and contrast that affirms the power of life. It is an Eden known as Namib.